All right, let's dive straight in. Have you ever paused to wonder who the president turns to when the nation faces incredibly complex questions about artificial intelligence or, the future of quantum computing or even the ethical side of groundbreaking biotechnology?
Yeah, who are those people?
Exactly. Who are these brilliant minds and how does their vital role, often kind of operating behind the scenes, how does it shift and evolve with the changing tides of technology and national priorities?
It's a great question.
Today, we're taking a truly deep dive into one of the most powerful yet often unsung advisory bodies in the U.S. government.
Yeah.
The President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, which, everyone calls PCAST.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because PCAST, it really stands as a prime example of this intricate and constantly evolving relationship between cutting-edge scientific expertise and the highest levels of executive decision-making.
Right.
So we're going to pull back the curtain on this critical interplay by examining a stack of official documents, executive orders, foundational U.S. laws. These aren't just, dry legal texts. They actually reveal PCST's core functions, its big shifts across different administrations, and how it constantly adapts to new challenges in emerging tech. It's like a living, breathing part of how our government grapples with the future.
So our mission for this deep dive is really to extract those essential nuggets of knowledge, those surprising facts that truly illuminate PCST's journey, from its foundational principles right up to its most recent and frankly quite traumatic transformations. We aim to help you understand its critical, often unseen role in shaping not just national policy, but potentially the very fabric of your future, too. And to guide us through this intricate landscape, we've got official Federal Register documents, executive orders signed by different presidents, and direct excerpts from the U.S. Code. It gives us a really good look into this powerful council.
Yeah, the raw material.
Exactly. So let's begin our journey back in early 2021. We'll set the stage with Executive Order 14,007. This order was signed on January 27th and pretty swiftly published in the Federal Register on February 1st. It basically laid out the blueprint for a reestablished PCST under President Joseph R. Biden Jr. It really marked a clear restart, a fresh vision for how science would inform policy.
That's right. In this initial order, it laid down a very clear and foundational policy. It wasn't just some vague statement, it was a direct commitment. The administration aimed to make evidence-based decisions guided by the best available science and data. That's the core idea.
Evidence-based, key phrase there.
Absolutely. And it went beyond just, acknowledging science. It explicitly directed officials and employees across all federal agencies to actively seek from scientists, engineers, and other experts the best available scientific and technological information and advice.
Wow, across all agencies.
Yeah, that was a powerful directive. There's a clear signal that scientific input was meant to be integrated at every level of policymaking. It underscored this belief that, objective data and rigorous scientific understanding should drive governmental action. It set a very high bar for the role of expertise in governance. It really established the philosophical underpinning for that iteration of PCST.
Okay, so with such a strong emphasis on integrating science, how exactly was this initial PCST put together? Who were these crucial advisors meant to be? And what measures were in place to make sure they brought a genuinely diverse range of insights?
Right. So under that order, EO 14007, PCST, was designed to be a pretty substantial body, but still manageable. Specified not more than 26 members.
26. Okay.
That specific number, it sort of suggests a careful calibration, right? Large enough for broad representation across different scientific fields, but compact enough for effective collaboration. A central figure, almost the linchpin, was the Assistant to the President for Science and Technology, the APST, often just called the Science Advisor.
The Science Advisor, yeah.
This person had a dual role, high level.
Right.
They served as a full member of PCST and as one of its co-chairs. This direct involvement from a top presidential aide really underscored the importance and the direct access PCST was meant to have.
Made sense. Direct line to the top.
Exactly. And there was also this specific provision. If the science advisor also happened to be the director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, OSTP, which is a common dual role, they had the flexibility to bring in the U.S. Chief Technology Officer as an additional member too.
Ah, okay. So potentially adding even more tech focus.
Right. It allowed for deeper integration of technological strategy from another key federal position, connecting policy to practical implementation.
Interesting.
But the truly defining aspect, I think, and where a lot of its unique strength came from, was the composition of the remaining members. These weren't federal employees.
Ah, okay. Outside experts.
Precisely. They were stipulated to be distinguished individuals and representatives from sectors outside of the federal government, directly appointed by the president. And the explicit emphasis here was on ensuring diverse perspectives and expertise in science, technology, and innovation.
So drawing from academia, industry.
Absolutely. Drawing from an incredibly wide pool of talent, not just, famous academics from big universities, but also visionary leaders from major industries, groundbreaking innovators from startups, insightful researchers from nonprofits. A real mix.
That sounds crucial for getting different viewpoints.
Totally. And the president would also designate one or two of these non-federal members to serve as co-chairs alongside the science advisor. This made sure that these external, non-governmental perspectives had a powerful voice right at the leadership level.
Good structure.
Yeah, and furthermore, the science advisor could designate up to 3 vice chairs from among these non-federal members too. This distributed the leadership responsibilities a bit more, allowed for more specialized focus within the council's various working groups. The whole structure, it was clearly designed to blend that high-level government insight with a really broad spectrum of cutting-edge external expertise. It created a pretty rich advisory environment.
Okay, so beyond its structure, what was this initial PCAST actually tasked with advising on? You mentioned the evidence-based decision-making, but it sounds like the scope was incredibly broad.
Oh, absolutely broad.
Oh.
Section 3 of that 2021 executive order laid out PCT's extensive functions. It really showed the wide sweep of its intended influence. The primary overarching mandate was pretty straightforward. Advise the president on matters involving policy affecting science, technology, and innovation. That's the core mission.
Right.
But it went significantly further. It specified it would also provide the scientific and technological information needed to inform public policy across a remarkably wide array of critical national topics.
Like what specific?
Well, the list included areas vital to the nation's future, like the economy, worker empowerment, education, energy, the environment, public health, national and homeland security, racial equity, and other topics.
Wow, that covers pretty much everything. Environment, racial equity, worker empowerment, those stand out.
They really do. And think about what that meant. For worker empowerment, PCAST wasn't just looking at, say, automation taking jobs. It could advise on how new tech could create new job categories, what skills the workforce would need, how to ensure equitable access for everyone.
Ah, okay. Proactive, not just reactive.
Exactly. And similarly, for racial equity, it could involve advising on how technology might either make existing disparities worse or potentially help fix them, things like access to healthcare, education, even financial services. It showed this really holistic approach, underscoring how science and tech were seen as foundational pillars supporting almost every major area of national policy under that administration. It wasn't just about pure science, it was very much about applying that science to solve big societal challenges.
So how did they make sure their advice was solid? Did they just talk amongst themselves?
No, definitely not. To ensure the advice was as robust and well-informed as possible, PCST was expected not only to respond directly to requests from the president or the science advisor for, information, analysis, evaluation, whatever they needed, but also, and this is crucial, it was mandated to solicit information and ideas from a broad range of stakeholders.
Okay, so reaching outside the government bubble.
Totally. It meant actively reaching out to the broader scientific and innovation ecosystem, engaging directly with the academic research community, leaders in the private sector, universities, the National Labs Network, even state, local, and tribal governments, plus foundations and various nonprofit organizations.
It's a wide net.
It really was. This open, expansive approach was strategically designed to ensure PCST's recommendations weren't, insular or narrowly focused. They wanted them profoundly well-informed by diverse perspectives, real-world practicalities, the latest breakthroughs coming from everywhere. It created this vital two-way street for information, enriching the whole advisory process.
Okay, now here's where, for me, it gets really fascinating. You mentioned PCST wasn't just a general advisory body answering questions. It was actually given specific legally defined roles under existing U.S. laws, like it had other jobs to do, legally mandated jobs. What were those?
Yeah, that's a vital distinction, and it raises an important question about the long-term clout of a body like this. Why task one advisory group with multiple functions, especially ones set up by Congress maybe decades earlier?
Right, why not just create new committees?
Well, the 2021 executive order explicitly gave PCAST 2 critical statutory hats. It embedded deep within pre-existing legal frameworks for national tech strategy. First, it was formally designated as the Advisory Committee for Section 101B of the High Performance Computing Act of 1991.
1991. Wow. So in that role.
In that capacity, it was known as the President's Innovation and Technology Advisory Committee, or PITAC. This put PCAST right at the heart of advising on the nation's strategy for supercomputing, advanced networking, the whole digital infrastructure future stuff, absolutely fundamental to competitiveness and security.
Okay, so PI-TAC was one hat. What was the other?
The second, and equally significant, was its designation as the Advisory Panel for Section 4 of the 21st Century Nanotechnology Research and Development Act. Here, it was called the National Nanotechnology Advisory Panel.
Nanotechnology, another huge field.
Exactly. So these dual legally mandated roles really solidified PCST's standing as the central expert body for two massive, strategically vital tech fields. This isn't just about offering general advice when asked. It's about fulfilling specific, ongoing legal mandates tied to long-term national research programs that came before the current administration. It ensured continuity and expert oversight in these absolutely critical areas.
That's a lot of responsibility. It sounds like a remarkably complex operation. How did PCST actually function day to day? I mean, where did the money come from? Who handled the admin?
Right, the practical stuff. The administrative provisions in that 2021 EO were actually remarkably clear and pragmatic.
Right.
They were designed to make sure PCST had the resources and the operational flexibility it needed.
Okay.
For starters, executive departments and other federal agencies were explicitly directed to give PCST relevant scientific and tech info whenever the co-chairs asked for it. Mandated cooperation across the government.
So no stonewalling allowed, ideally.
Ideally, yeah. And beyond that, PCAST was authorized to create its own internal structure, standing subcommittees, ad hoc groups. They could even form highly specialized technical advisory groups to really deep dive into specific issues, gather preliminary info, do initial analysis before bringing recommendations to the full council. This decentralized approach really boosted its investigative power.
Makes sense. What about secret stuff? Classified information.
Good question. Given its role in national security science, that was bound to come up. The science advisor had the authority to request security clearances for PCAST members or their designated groups. This process fell under Executive Order 12968, which is the big one governing access to classified information.
Ah, okay. We'll probably touch on that order later.
We definitely will. But this provision was crucial. It meant even the most sensitive national security science issues could benefit from PCST's expert advice without compromising security.
Okay, so they had access. What about funding and support staff?
In terms of direct logistical and financial support, the Department of Energy DOE was explicitly designated to provide the necessary funding, plus administrative and technical support.
DOE. Interesting. Why them?
It actually makes a lot of sense. DOE has a long history as a major scientific research agency, running national labs, managing huge scientific projects. They have the infrastructure and the institutional know-how to support a body like PCST.
Okay.
And it's important to clarify something people often wonder about. The members themselves, these outside experts, they served without direct compensation for their work on the council. It's like a high-level volunteer position.
Right. But travel isn't free.
Exactly. So they were authorized to receive travel expenses, including a per diem allowance. This provision, laid out in federal law 5 U.S.C. 5701-5707, which we can also discuss, is incredibly important. It ensures that top experts from across the country, regardless of their personal financial situation, can actually participate without having to pay out of pocket for travel to meetings and things.
Yeah, that makes it possible to get the best people, not just the ones who can afford it.
Precisely. It's absolutely key to enabling broad and diverse participation.
So it sounds like a robust, well-supported body, but you mentioned it wasn't permanent, right? It had a specific lifespan initially.
Yes, that's exactly correct. Section 5 of that 2021 executive order stated quite clearly that PCST would terminate 2 years from the date of this order unless extended by the president.
A sunset clause.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a standard and very pragmatic provision for many federal advisory committees. It's designed to allow for regular review, reevaluation, adjustments to their mandate, or even, deciding if they're still needed based on current national priorities. It builds in accountability and governmental adaptability. Keeps things relevant.
Okay, so with that 2-year termination clock ticking away from early 2021, what happened? Did it just expire, or was there some action to keep it going?
This is where Executive Order 14109 comes into the picture. Signed by President Biden on September 29, 2023, published in the Federal Register October 4th, it played a vital, though ultimately temporary, role.
Okay.
Its title kind of gives away continuance of certain federal advisory committees and amendments to other executive orders. Its main job was exactly that, to extend the life of several key advisory bodies that were nearing their termination dates. And PCST was one of them.
So it wasn't just PCFT, it was a bunch of committees.
Exactly. Under Section 1V of this specific order, the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, Executive Order 14-7, as amended Department of Energy, was explicitly listed.
Got it.
This meant that PCST, operating in its existing form under that 2021 mandate, would be continued until September 30, 2025. So it demonstrated an ongoing commitment to PCST's functions, acknowledged its continued relevance beyond the initial 2 years. Essentially, it was a bridge. It allowed the council to keep working without interruption, maybe buying time for the administration to think about longer-term strategies or a bigger reevaluation.
So yeah, part of a broader administrative update, just keeping the important machinery running across the government, ensuring continuity. Makes sense. Okay, so PCAST got its life extended through September 2025. A temporary reprieve, like you said.
I don't get the word.
But then we saw a new executive order signed just this year, January 23, 2025. And this one makes a very direct, very impactful statement. It explicitly declares that it revokes Executive Order 14,007 as amended by Executive Order 14,109.
Yeah, it wipes the slate clean.
Exactly. It revokes the whole previous framework. This isn't just an amendment. It feels like a complete reset. What does this drastic action mean for PCAST? What is fundamentally different now?
This is truly where the narrative takes a sharp, significant turn. It reveals a profound re-envisioning of PCAST's role and mission. Like you said, the new 2025 order doesn't just tweak or extend, it entirely revokes the previous framework and reestablishes PCAST under a completely new mandate. Yeah, this is far from a minor update. It signals a fundamental shift in the administration's whole approach to science and technology advising. It reflects deeply ingrained new priorities and, frankly, a starkly altered perception of global challenges and maybe even internal roadblocks to scientific progress. It's a clean slate driven by a new philosophy.
So what does that new philosophy sound like? What's the tone?
Well, the purpose section of this new order is particularly striking. The language is strong, almost declarative. It sets a very distinct, assertive tone right from the start. It begins by celebrating the American story as one of boundless creativity and bold ambition, driven by a pioneering spirit. Okay, standard enough. But then it immediately links this national characteristic to what it calls a new frontier of scientific discovery, explicitly defined by transformative technologies such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and advanced biotechnology.
The big ones. AI, quantum, biotech.
The big ones. And crucially, it asserts that breakthroughs in these fields have the potential to reshape the global balance of power, spark entirely new industries, and revolutionize the way we live and work.
Reshape the global balance of power. That's strong.
Very strong. This language directly frames scientific and technological leadership not just as, an economic plus, but as a core national security imperative. And the goal for the United States to achieve and maintain unquestioned and unchallenged global technological dominance.
Unquestioned and unchallenged. Wow, that's blunt.
It is. This language paints a vivid picture of intense international competition. It positions scientific and tech superiority as an absolute cornerstone of national power, future prosperity, global influence. It's a very clear strategic statement.
And what's really striking, reading through it, is that this new order goes beyond just that global competition focus. It delves into internal challenges, talking about ideological dogmas and perceived threats to truth in science itself. That's incredibly strong language for an official document setting up a science advisory body.
It absolutely is, and it raises that important question. What challenges does this new order see as so significant that they warrant such direct, assertive language in the mandate?
Right.
The order states that the foundational principle of pursuing truth in science is increasingly under threat. It then explicitly names ideological dogmas that it says have surfaced that elevate group identity above individual achievement, enforce conformity at the expense of innovative ideas, and inject politics into the heart of the scientific method.
That's quite an accusation to level within an executive order.
It is. And it goes on to claim these agendas have not only distorted truth but have eroded public trust, undermined the integrity of research, stifled innovation, and weakened America's competitive edge. So this framing positions the new PCAST as an essential response. It aims to unite the brightest minds, to guide our nation through this critical moment by charting a path forward for American leadership.
So it sounds like it views part of PCAST's new job as combating these perceived internal issues within science.
That seems to be the implication, yes. This language clearly signals a perceived internal ideological battle within the scientific sphere, or at least a deep concern about its integrity, which the new PCSE is evidently intended to address directly. It frames the Council not just as an advisor on scientific advancements, but potentially as a guardian of scientific integrity against certain perceived internal threats.
Okay, so with such a stark new vision and this strong statement about perceived challenges, how has the actual structure and leadership of PCST changed under this new 2025 order? How does that reflect this new focus?
There are indeed notable structural adjustments that seem to directly mirror this new sharpened vision. The new PCAST is to be composed of not more than 24 members.
Down from 26, a slight reduction.
A slight reduction, yeah. Well, while it seems minor, it could suggest a move towards an even more streamlined or tightly focused body, maybe aiming for greater agility or a more concentrated pool of expertise. But the most significant change, and really a telling one, is in the leadership structure. The Assistant to the President for Science and Technology, the APST, continues as a co-chair. That maintains that vital direct link to the President's staff, the White House.
Right.
However, they are now explicitly joined by a newly created role, a special advisor for AI and crypto as a second co-chair.
Whoa, AI and crypto, that's incredibly specific.
Isn't it? This new, highly specific co-chair role signals a direct, elevated focus on these particular tech domains, artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, right at the highest advisory level. It clearly indicates these two areas are considered absolutely paramount for the nation's future security, economic competitiveness, tech dominance. They demand immediate, dedicated attention from the Council's leadership.
That's a huge signal. What about the other members, the non-federal ones?
In terms of qualifications, the order maintains that crucial requirement. They should still be distinguished individuals with diverse perspectives. That need for external cutting-edge expertise is still vital. However, it now explicitly adds education as a required area of expertise, alongside science, technology, and innovation.
Education. Interesting. Why the addition?
Well, this broadened scope suggests an increased emphasis on how scientific and tech advancements aren't just developed, but how they're integrated into educational frameworks. And critically, how they contribute to developing the future workforce. It acknowledges that leadership isn't just discovery, it's also cultivating the talent to use those discoveries.
Makes sense. Train the people who will build and use this tech.
Exactly. And one other small structural change. The number of vice chairs the co-chairs can designate has been reduced from up to 3 down to up to 2.
Okay. Maybe streamlining leadership a bit more.
Possibly. It might further streamline the internal leadership, align with the slight reduction in overall membership, perhaps aiming for a more centralized or directed approach within the Council's working groups.
Okay, structure and leadership have changed. What about the specific policy areas PCST will advise on under this new order? Is the scope still as broad as before, or has it been refined to match this new strategic vision?
The advisory scope has definitely been refined. It reflects a distinct, sharpened focus in this new 2025 order. The new PCAST will advise the President on matters involving science, technology, education, and innovation policy. That slightly reordered emphasis hints at the new inclusion of education.
Right.
When providing scientific and technical information to inform public policy, the focus is now explicitly directed towards the American economy, the American worker, national and homeland security, and other topics.
Okay, wait. Let's compare that. The old list included environment, public health, racial equity explicitly. Those aren't named here.
They're not explicitly named in that specific list in the new order. That's a significant adjustment. While other topics remains an open-ended category, potentially allowing for advice on those areas if requested.
But the named priorities have shifted.
Exactly. The specific named areas, economy, worker, national security, clearly reflect this administration's prioritized interests. The emphasis is squarely on economic competitiveness, robust workforce development, and national defense as the primary drivers and beneficiaries for science and tech policy.
Okay, so a different emphasis in the general advice. But what about those specific legal roles, the PITAC and Nanotechnology Panel jobs? Are those still there?
Yes, and this is crucial to stress. Despite these broader shifts in the executive order's preamble and general policy scope, PCST retains its specific statutory duties under those existing long-standing laws.
Ah, okay. That's important for continuity.
Hugely important.
Yeah.
It ensures a critical level of continuity in certain strategic areas, regardless of changing administrative priorities. So it will continue to serve as the advisory committee for the High Performance Computing Act of 1991, still known as PITAC. That expert oversight for our national digital infrastructure remains. And it will continue its equally important role as the advisory panel for the 21st Century Nanotechnology Research and Development Act, the National Nanotechnology Advisory Panel. So those core, legally mandated advisory functions persist. They provide this foundational layer of stability beneath the shifting policy landscape described in the order's preamble.
Okay, that's really good to clarify. So it sounds like while the overarching mission and leadership focus have definitely evolved, a lot of the day-to-day operational stuff, the admin procedures, remain largely the same. Is that fair?
Yes, I think that's broadly correct.
Yeah.
Despite the significant shifts in mandate and leadership focus, the administrative provisions for PCAST are largely consistent. It provides a stable, familiar operational framework.
Like what?
Well, executive departments and agencies are still required to provide info to PCAST on request. That interagency cooperation piece is still there. The ability to create subcommittees, ad hoc groups, technical advisor groups that remains, allowing for those deep dives. The requirement for security clearances under EO 12968 for classified matters is unchanged. So national security can still benefit from PCST's expertise on sensitive topics.
Okay.
The Department of Energy is still designated to provide the funding and administrative support, which helps maintain institutional memory and operational efficiency. Members still serve without direct pay, but remain eligible for travel expenses, including per diem under 5 U.S.C. 5701-5707.
Right.
And importantly, the Federal Advisory Committee Act still applies, with the Secretary of Energy managing those functions, except for reported to Congress. And finally, the termination clause also mirrors the previous one. It terminates 2 years from the date of the order, unless specifically extended by the President. That standard review mechanism is still built in.
Okay, so lots of change in focus and leadership, but the underlying machinery and some core legal duties remain consistent. Got it. Now let's connect these pieces and zoom out a bit. We know PCST isn't just an advisory board, it's tied into these foundational U.S. laws. That gives its advice real long-term impact. What do these roles as PITAC and the Nanotechnology Panel truly entail? How do they shape our tech landscape? Let's start with the High Performance Computing Act role, the PITAC hat.
Okay. PCAST's role as the President's Innovation and Technology Advisory Committee, PITAC under that law, 15 U.S.C. 4511, ties it directly to something called the Networking and Information Technology Research and Development Program, or NITRD.
NITRD.
This program is incredibly far-reaching. It's designed to provide long-term basic and applied research in crucial areas like networking, IT, high-end computing-related software. It's not just about building faster computers. It's the entire digital infrastructure underpinning, well, almost everything now.
The internet, cloud, scientific simulations.
Exactly. Everything from climate modeling to drug discovery, national defense. It's the backbone of our digital future.
So what specific activities does PCAST advise on there?
The Act emphasizes several key program activities: continuous R&D on advanced computing and networking systems, ensuring software security and reliability, absolutely vital for protecting critical infrastructure, financial systems, defense against cyber threats.
Hugely important now.
Absolutely. It also ensures sustained access for the U.S. research community to cutting-edge, high-end computing systems among the most advanced globally. So researchers have the tools they need.
Right, keeping our scientists equipped.
Precisely. Furthermore, it explicitly calls for computational science and engineering research, focusing on mathematical modeling, algorithms for all scientific and engineering fields. That's the brainpower, the code behind designing new aircraft, predicting weather, you name it.
Got it.
And remarkably forward-looking for an act from 1991, it also heavily supports educating and training additional undergraduate and graduate students in critical areas.
Like computer science, cybersecurity.
Exactly. Software engineering, applied math, library and info science, computational science. These are the specialized skills, the human capital, vital for the future economy, national security, and cultivating the next generation of innovators. So PCK, as PSAC, advises on both the immediate infrastructure challenges and the long-term talent development for our digital future.
So PITAC, or PCAST, wearing its PITAC hat, is essentially advising on the foundational elements of our entire digital future: infrastructure and people. That's an enormous ongoing job.
It truly is. As the advisory committee, PCCAT provides an independent assessment of the NITRD program's progress. This isn't just a rubber stamp. It means rigorously evaluating its ongoing relevance, the balance of its components, like is there enough basic research versus applied development, and critically determining if the R&D is actually helping to maintain United States leadership in networking and information technology.
So real critical analysis.
Definitely. PCST conducts periodic evaluations of the program's funding, management, coordination across agencies, making sure it's efficient, not duplicating efforts. And for accountability, federal law now specifies this committee must report its findings and recommendations to Congress at least once every 3 fiscal years.
Regular check-ins with Congress.
Right. It highlights its ongoing oversight role in a field moving at lightning speed. And importantly, PITAC is explicitly exempt from the standard Federal Advisory Committee Act sunset clause. It's intended to be long-term, continuous expert guidance.
Okay, that covers the computing side. What about the second hat? The National Nanotechnology Advisory Panel under the 2003 Act.
Right. PCST's second statutory role, equally important, is as the National Nanotechnology Advisory Panel under 15 U.S.C. 7503. This stems from the 21st Century Nanotechnology Research and Development Act of 2003. That act established the National Nanotechnology Program, or NNP.
And its goal?
The overarching goal is explicit, ensuring United States global leadership in the development and application of nanotechnology.
Okay, but what is nanotechnology in simple terms?
Good question. The Act broadly defines it as the science and tech enabling us to understand, measure, manipulate, and manufacture at the atomic, molecular, and supramolecular levels. Think working with materials, literally atom by atom, molecule by molecule.
Wow, tiny scale.
Incredibly tiny. The aim is creating materials and systems with fundamentally new, often revolutionary, properties and functions. Building from the absolute ground up, it opens up entirely new possibilities in medicine, materials, energy, electronics, you name it.
So what does the nanotechnology program actually do?
It supports a wide range of activities, grants for individual researchers and interdisciplinary teams, because nano spans physics, chemistry, biology, etc. It establishes a network of advanced tech user facilities, giving researchers access to super specialized, expensive equipment. It funds interdisciplinary nano research centers.
Hubs for research.
Exactly. Fostering collaboration, sharing technical info, often involving partnerships between universities, national labs, state governments, industry. And the program isn't just about pure discovery. It's explicitly designed to accelerate the deployment and application of nanotechnology in the private sector, including nurturing startups and encouraging interdisciplinary research and education, building that talent pipeline.
Okay. Now, here's where it got really captivating for me earlier. You mentioned the source material talks about ethical concerns tied directly to nanotechnology. That sounds incredibly important given how transformative this stuff sounds. How did the Act, and therefore PCAST, handle that?
This is genuinely one of the most visionary and critical aspects of the Nanotechnology Act. It really makes you ask, how do we ensure something this powerful is developed responsibly?
Right.
A truly groundbreaking aspect of this act is its explicit mandate to consider ethical, legal, environmental, and other appropriate societal concerns. They often call it ELSEC.
ELSEC. Got it.
And the advisory panel, which PCAST serves as, is specifically tasked with assessing whether these profound concerns are adequately addressed by the program. It's not an afterthought. It's baked into PCAST's core oversight function for nano.
So they have to ask, are we thinking about the ethics?
They have to. The Act even calls for specific one-time studies as part of its external reviews. These studies were meant to determine the technical feasibility of things like molecular self-assembly.
Which is like things building themselves.
Essentially, yeah. Building complex structures atom by atom, where components arrange themselves precisely, like tiny smart Legos snapping together. And the Act also called for assessing the need for standards for the responsible development of nanotechnology.
Okay, that makes sense. But the ethical stuff gets even wilder, right?
Oh, it does. The scope of these mandated studies is incredibly far-reaching, almost science fiction-like, showing a remarkable legislative foresight back in 2003. They included topics like self-replicating nanoscale machines or devices.
Machines making copies of themselves, like Grey Goose scenarios.
Potentially, yeah. Or at least considering that possibility. Also, their potential release into natural environments, implications for encryption, developing defensive tech against misuse. But what really stands out is the call to examine the use of nanotechnology in the enhancement of human intelligence and in developing artificial intelligence.
Whoa! Enhancement of human intelligence. Developing AI using nano.
Back in 2003.
Back in 2003. This legislative foresight is incredible. It shows this profound, almost prescient awareness of the deep societal implications, moving way beyond just technical feasibility to grapple with the very nature of humanity and the future of AI. It's a testament to understanding early on that scientific progress needs proactive, ethical guardrails.
So PCST's advice in this area isn't just technical, it's literally shaping how we think about the future of humanity, our environment, AI itself. That's an enormous responsibility, a real focus on responsible innovation. It absolutely is. As the National Nanotechnology Advisory Panel, PCST advises the President and the National Science and Technology Council on trends, progress, program revisions, funding balance, all aimed at maintaining U.S. leadership, but responsibly. And under the law, 15 U.S.C. 7503, the panel's reports to the President and Congress on these assessments are now submitted quadrennially, every 4 years.
Quadrennially.
Yeah.
Okay, indicating that long-term strategic perspective.
Exactly. Sustained, responsible leadership in a critical, ethically complex field.
Okay, one more legal piece we mentioned, security clearances, especially vital for experts advising on sensitive national security science. What does Executive Order 12968, signed way back in 1995, actually mean for the people serving on PCST? What kind of process do they go through?
Right, EO 12968, access to classified information. This is the foundational bedrock for protecting the U.S. government's most sensitive national security info. Its stated purpose is incredibly serious, preventing irreparable damage to the national security and loss of human life from unauthorized disclosure.
High stakes.
Extremely high. So for PCAST members whose duties require access to classified stuff, maybe related to defense or intelligence tech, they have to navigate a very stringent, very thorough process. The order is designed to ensure access is treated as a profound privilege, not a right, granted only to those whose loyalty, trustworthiness, and discretion are absolutely beyond question.
So how do they determine that?
The eligibility process is comprehensive. Extensive background investigations delving deep into personal and professional history. The goal is establishing that their life affirmatively indicates loyalty to the United States, strength of character, trustworthiness, honesty, reliability, discretion, and sound judgment, as well as freedom from conflicting allegiances and potential for coercion.
Wow, that's intense scrutiny for, say, a university professor or an industry leader.
It really is. It's not just about what they know, but who they are, their loyalty, discretion, character. And the order explicitly states eligibility is a discretionary security decision, not a right. Any doubt is resolved in favor of national security. Plus, they must have a demonstrated need to know the specific classified info for their duties. They can't just browse classified files.
Need to know, right.
And as a final, legally binding step, they have to sign an approved non-disclosure agreement, committing them to protect that sensitive information indefinitely.
So it's not just checking credentials, it's an incredibly deep dive into their whole life and character. That's profound.
Precisely. And for those few needing access to really sensitive classified info, maybe about covert agents, secret intelligence tech, crypto systems, or special access programs, SAPs.
SAPs, what are those?
Think deepest government secrets, breakthrough military tech, intelligence methods, highly sensitive research, so compartmentalized, few even know they exist.
Okay, top secret.
Pretty much. For those levels, there are even more stringent requirements. Maybe filing detailed financial disclosure reports, providing extensive info on foreign travel. Agencies can even request searches of financial databases. These measures aim to identify any potential vulnerabilities, foreign influence, financial issues, anything that could compromise loyalty or discretion. Maximum security for the most guarded secrets.
And is it a one-time check?
No, the system emphasizes continuous vigilance, ongoing assessment, periodic reinvestigations. Because circumstances and characteristics may change dramatically over time, they recheck eligibility.
Makes sense. What if someone is denied or has their clearance revoked?
The order outlines a detailed review process, trying to ensure some due process, written explanations, access to relevant documents if security permits, right to legal representation, opportunity to appeal to a high-level panel. But ultimately, the agency head has the final say if revealing info during the process would itself harm national security. It's a comprehensive, layered framework trying to balance safeguarding secrets with fairness within those strict national security bounds.
Okay. Finally, let's talk about the practical side supporting these expert advisors. We know they volunteer their time, no direct pay, but how are expenses covered? This is where 5 U.S.C. 5707 comes in, right? Seems mundane but crucial.
You're absolutely right. Mundane but crucial. This section of the U.S. Code defines who counts as an employee for federal travel and subsistence expenses. And critically for bodies like PCAST, it specifically includes an individual employed intermittently as an expert or consultant, and even more importantly, an individual serving without pay or at $1 a year.
Ah, so that's the legal hook for covering the volunteer.
Exactly. It's the essential legal basis allowing these distinguished individuals, often not salaried federal employees, to participate without incurring significant personal financial burden for their official travel. It removes that barrier.
So what exactly does it cover? Plane tickets, hotels?
The law says such individuals are entitled to either a per diem allowance, that's a fixed daily payment for lodging, meals, incidental expenses like tips, instead of itemizing everything, or they can get reimbursement for the actual and necessary expenses of official travel, or sometimes a mix of both.
Okay. And who sets those rates?
The rates are carefully set and regularly updated. The Administrator of General Services sets them for travel within the continental U.S., and the President or their designee sets them for travel outside the continental U.S. It's a pragmatic, fundamental provision enabling the government to draw on the widest pool of top expert talent, regardless of their personal ability to cover travel costs for public service.
So yeah, it's about making sure practical costs don't stop the nation from getting the best minds, enabling their essential work. Makes perfect sense. Okay, we've systematically pulled apart the layers of PCAST's history, its evolving roles, the foundational laws underpinning it. So having gone through this extensive deep dive, what does all this truly tell us about how science and policy intertwine at the highest levels of the U.S. government? And, maybe more importantly, why should this matter to us, the listeners?
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how vividly these executive orders illustrate the profoundly dynamic nature of presidential priorities.
Dynamic is a good word for it.
Right. We saw that clear evolution from the 2021 order's broad mandate, explicitly embracing environment, public health, racial equity, to the new 2025 order's sharply refined focus on national security, tech dominance, and addressing those perceived internal ideological challenges in science.
Yeah, quite a shift.
It's not just bureaucratic shuffling. It's a profound reflection of how high-level scientific advice adapts to, and is indeed shaped by, an administration's overarching goals and the challenges it prioritizes. It shows even a scientific advisory body, meant for objective counsel, isn't static. It's a highly responsive instrument of national strategy, reflecting the administration's posture and perceived threats, both external and internal.
So the advice reflects the priorities of who's asking for it, to some extent.
To some extent, yes. And this raises that important question for all of us. How does a government in this incredibly fast-changing world continuously tap into external cutting-edge expertise? These advisory committees, especially one like PCAST, are crucial mechanisms. They're vital conduits.
Conduits for what?
For funneling the very latest outside knowledge and diverse perspectives from top academics, industry innovators, nonprofit researchers directly to the president and key policy bodies. They translate complex science and tech into actionable policy recommendations. They bridge that often huge gap between lab discovery and government implementation.
Right.
Turning science into policy.
Exactly. And for you, the listener, understanding these channels is absolutely key. It helps you see how science moves from theory through these high-level policy discussions and ultimately into impacting your daily life, shaping regulations, driving economic change, safeguarding national interests.
And speaking of daily life, how does PCST's work, especially through those legal roles in nanotechnology and high-performance computing, how does that actually impact our listeners' world? Maybe in ways they don't even realize.
Well, think about the core technologies PCST advises on. AI, quantum computing, advanced biotech, nanotech, these aren't abstract concepts stuck in labs. They are the foundational elements that will profoundly define future job markets.
Yeah, definitely jobs.
Drive revolutionary innovations in healthcare, new diagnostics, personalized medicine, shape effective environmental solutions, and fundamentally underpin national defense and economic competitiveness. The insights and advice given to the president today directly influence the technological landscape you live and work in tomorrow.
So it's not abstract at all. It's the speed of my internet, the materials in my phone.
Absolutely. The speed and security of your internet, the revolutionary materials in your next device, advancements in medical treatments, PCST's recommendations are quietly at work, shaping the very fabric of our technological future, impacting opportunities, safety, well-being.
And that ethical piece you mentioned with nanotechnology, ELSEC, that seems really significant too.
It really is. What stands out to me, and should stand out to any informed citizen, is that remarkable forward-thinking emphasis in the Nanotechnology Act on ethical, legal, environmental, and societal concerns. The fact that PCST, in that role, is explicitly tasked with assessing if these issues are adequately addressed, even considering things like self-replicating nanoscale machines or enhancement of human intelligence, it underscores this profound awareness at the highest levels.
An awareness that science needs careful thought about consequences.
Precisely. That scientific progress, however exciting, must be balanced with careful, proactive, deeply ethical consideration of its broader societal implications. That's the very definition of responsible innovation. It's not just about what we can do with science and tech, but fundamentally what we should do and how we ensure these powerful tools truly benefit everyone without disastrous unintended consequences.
So what does this all mean for us then? It means understanding these underlying mechanisms, these shifts in focus, staying informed about how science gets woven into governance. It's vital.
Absolutely vital.
It's how we grasp where the nation is heading technologically, how we anticipate challenges, and how we can collectively work to ensure the future we build is one that truly serves us all, with innovation guided by wisdom. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. It's been truly fascinating to see how one single yet incredibly powerful advisory body can evolve so significantly based on an administration's priorities and perceived challenges, yet remains so utterly crucial to the nation's scientific and technological path.
Indeed. It serves as a potent reminder, doesn't it, that the path of scientific and technological leadership isn't linear, it's not self-directing. It is actively shaped by deliberate, high-level policy decisions and the insights of those tasked with navigating our complex future. Understanding these mechanisms of influence is absolutely key to appreciating the profound forces that are right now shaping our collective future and determining who leads the next wave of innovation.
Absolutely. And for you, our listener, here's a final thought to maybe mull over as you go about your day. Given the relentless pace of scientific advancement and the increasingly complex challenges facing our world, from intense global tech competition to those profound ethical dilemmas in AI and beyond, what kind of scientific advisory body do you think is most vital for the United States to not just keep pace, but truly lead and thrive in the coming decades? Something to think about.